If you undress me, you accept my species. Alien princess tested the human. S forbidden lust the starship settled into orbit above Valeth with a quiet hum, its engines cooling like tired lungs. Elias Ward stood alone near the viewport, hands folded behind his back, watching the planet turn slowly beneath him. Valeth was beautiful in a sharp, unsettling way. Its surface shimmered with pale crystal plains and dark rivers that caught the light like metal. Nothing about it felt soft or welcoming. Elias had been trained not to trust beauty. He was a diplomat, chosen not for strength or fearlessness, but for calm. Humanity had learned, after many costly first contacts, that calm could save more lives than weapons ever could. Elias breathed steadily as the ship's AI informed him that the Lathari delegation was ready to receive him. The Lathari were old, proud, and careful. They ruled a small but powerful empire, one that controlled key trade paths between dozens of species. An alliance with them could bring peace to regions that had burned for generations. Failure could isolate Earth for decades. Elias adjusted the simple gray uniform he wore. No weapons, no armor, just a badge bearing the symbol of Earth's United Councils. He stepped onto the transport platform as light wrapped around him and pulled him away from the ship. The Palace of Valeth rose like a sculpture carved by time itself. Walls of translucent crystal arched overhead, glowing softly with internal light. The air was cool and clean, carrying a faint hum that Elias felt more in his bones than his ears. Lathari guards stood in silence along the corridor, tall and slender, their skin smooth and reflective like polished stone. Their eyes followed him, unblinking. He was led into a wide chamber with no furniture, no banners, and no visible weapons. At its center stood Princess Saren. She was taller than Elias by a small margin, her posture straight and controlled. Her skin shimmered with slow-moving patterns of color, pale blues and silvers that shifted like clouds under ice. She wore a ceremonial mantle made of thin, overlapping plates that covered her form completely. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp and focused. Elias stopped at the marked line on the floor and bowed slightly, as protocol demanded. "Princess Saren of the Lathari," he said, "I come as a representative of humanity in peace." Her voice was clear and even, echoing softly through the chamber. "Elias Ward of Earth. You stand before me unguarded. This is noted." She studied him for a long moment. Elias felt the weight of her attention, not hostile but intense, like standing under a bright light. He kept his expression neutral, his breathing slow. "You are aware," Saren said, "that many species have stood where you stand now." "Yes," Elias replied, "and I am aware that few were invited to return." A ripple of color passed over her skin, a brief darkening that Elias had been told indicated interest. "Honesty," she said. "A human trait according to your records." She gestured and the guards stepped back, retreating into the walls until only the two of them remained in the chamber. The doors sealed without a sound. "This audience," Saren continued, "is not a negotiation. It is a test." Elias nodded. "I understand. Do you?" she asked. Many who claimed understanding did not. She raised one long, elegant hand and touched the clasp at her collar. Elias felt his muscles tense, not in fear but in awareness. He remembered the briefings. He remembered the warnings. Among the Lathari, physical exposure was not casual. It was not tied to pleasure or attraction. It was tied to power, to trust, to ownership. To be seen without protection was to place oneself in another's control. To accept such exposure was to accept responsibility for the one who revealed themselves. "If you undress me," Saren said calmly, "you accept my species." The words were not a challenge. They were a statement of law. Elias did not move. He did not look away either. He met her gaze, steady and respectful. "I have no intention of undressing you," he said. A faint tightening appeared around her eyes. "Then you refuse us." "No," Elias said. "I refuse to claim what is not mine to claim." The colors on her skin shifted, faster now, rippling in patterns Elias could not fully read. "Explain." "In my culture," Elias said slowly, choosing simple words, "acceptance is not proven by taking. It is proven by restraint, by choice." Saren's hand rested at the clasp, unmoving. "Your species is known for strong desire, for deep emotion. Our scholars say this makes you dangerous." "They are not wrong," Elias said. "We feel strongly, that is true, but feeling is not the same as acting." Silence stretched between them. The chamber seemed to listen. Saren's mantle released with a soft sound, unfolding and withdrawing into itself. She did not step forward. She did not pose. She simply stood as she was, unarmored, exposed by her people's definition. The air seemed to tighten. Elias felt the moment press against him. Sensors he could not see were likely tracking his pulse, his breathing, the smallest movements of his eyes. He was aware of her form, of her presence, but he did not let his focus narrow. He saw her as a person standing before him, not as a symbol to be claimed. He lowered his hands from behind his back and unclipped his own badge, placing it gently on the floor between them. "In my world," he said, "removing one's protection is a sign of trust, not control." Saren looked down at the badge, then back at him. The shifting colors of her skin slowed, settling into a pale, steady glow. "You offer yourself," she said. "I offer honesty," Elias replied, "and respect." The chamber doors did not open. No guards returned. The test was not over. Saren raised her hand again, and the air around Elias shimmered. He felt a strange pressure behind his eyes, a warmth in his chest. His thoughts grew louder, sharper. Emotions he kept carefully balanced rose closer to the surface. Concern, hope, the quiet fear of failure. "Do you feel this?" Saren asked. "Yes," Elias said, his voice steady though his heart beat faster. "This is empathic resonance," she said. "It reveals what is hidden. Many break here." Elias closed his eyes for a brief moment, then opened them again. He did not push the feelings away. He acknowledged them, named them, and let them pass. "I feel," he said, "but I am still choosing." The resonance intensified. Memories surfaced unbidden. Earth under a blue sky. The faces of people who trusted him to stand here. The weight of history pressing down through generations that had learned, slowly and painfully, the cost of giving in to impulse. Elias breathed through it. Saren watched closely. Her skin flickered, uncertain now, patterns breaking and reforming. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why endure this?" "Because alliance built on fear will fail," Elias said. "An alliance built on domination will end in blood. We do not want either." The resonance faded. The chamber's air felt lighter, as if a storm had passed. Saren stood in silence for a long time. Then slowly she inclined her head. "You have not accepted my species," she said. "No," Elias agreed, "but I am willing to stand beside it." The corners of her mouth lifted just slightly. Among the Lathari it was a sign of something rare. "Then perhaps," she said, "humanity is not what we feared." The doors began to open, light spilling back into the chamber as guards returned. Saren retrieved her mantle, securing it once more, but the space between her and Elias had changed. It was no longer an arena. It was the beginning of a bridge. Elias picked up his badge and reattached it to his uniform. His hands were steady. As he was led away, he did not know if humanity had passed the test, but he knew one thing with certainty. For the first time, the Lathari had seen a species that could feel deeply, stand exposed, and still choose restraint. And that, Elias believed, was only the beginning. The chamber doors closed behind Elias with a soft sound, sealing the echoes of the court outside. The light dimmed slightly, and the crystal walls shifted their glow to a calm, steady tone. Princess Saren stood a short distance away, her posture still straight, but something in her presence had changed. She no longer felt like a judge alone. She felt like someone thinking. Elias remained where he was. He did not assume the test was over simply because the pressure had eased. Experience had taught him that the most dangerous moments often came after silence. "You endured what others could not," Saren said at last. "Yet you did not complete the ritual." "I did not believe it was mine to complete," Elias replied. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger but in focus. "Our laws are old. They were built to protect us from those who would take without understanding." "And they have served you well," Elias said. "But laws can protect and still need to grow." A slow wave of color passed over her skin, deep violet fading into silver. Elias had learned that this pattern often meant internal conflict. The Lathari valued certainty. Humanity, by contrast, had grown used to doubt. "You speak as if growth is painless," Saren said. "It never is," Elias answered. "But it is better than decay." She turned away from him and walked toward the far wall where faint symbols were etched into the crystal. They told the history of her people, victories and losses recorded not in words but in light and shape. Elias waited, letting her have the silence she needed. "At our borders," Saren said quietly, "there are species who burn worlds when they feel insulted. Others who cannot control their hunger. Others who see every exposed weakness as an invitation to rule." She faced him again. "We believed humans would be the same. Worse, perhaps. You feel deeply, yet you spread faster than most." "We spread because we adapt," Elias said. "Not because we conquer." A faint sound escaped her, something close to a short laugh. "Your history suggests otherwise." Elias did not argue. "Our past is not clean. That is why we learned restraint the hard way." The floor beneath them shimmered, and the chamber expanded, unfolding into a wider space. Images formed in the air around them. Star systems, trade routes, conflict zones. Elias recognized several regions where war had simmered for decades. "These are the fractures in our empire," Saren said. "We hold them together through fear of our response, but fear weakens over time." She turned to him sharply. "If we accept humanity as an equal, others will challenge us. They will test us harder than they ever have." "They already are," Elias said gently. "They just do it where you cannot see." Saren studied him, searching for arrogance, for manipulation. She found neither. That unsettled her more than open challenge ever could. "You do not offer dominance," she said. "You do not offer submission. What do humans offer?" "Partnership," Elias said, "and accountability, including for ourselves." The images shifted. A new projection appeared, showing a tall, armored figure of another species, known for its rigid honor codes and sudden violence. "They will not respect restraint," Saren said. "They will see it as weakness." "Then let them test it," Elias said. "Restraint does not mean helplessness. It means choosing when not to strike." Silence returned, heavier this time. Saren walked closer, stopping just a few steps from Elias. By Lathari standards, the distance was intimate. Elias remained still, his gaze level, his hands relaxed at his sides. "You felt the resonance," she said. "You did not hide from it." "No," Elias said. "I listened to it." "That is what frightens us," Saren admitted. "Most species either drown in their impulses or deny them completely. You acknowledge them and still walk forward." She reached out, stopping just short of touching his shoulder. Her hand trembled slightly. "If I accept your words," she said, "I must change how my people see strength." "Strength already exists," Elias said. "You would only be naming it differently." Saren closed her eyes. When she opened them, her skin settled into a clear, bright tone Elias had not seen before. It was the color of resolve. "The court will resist," she said. "The scholars will argue, some will accuse you of manipulation." "They can," Elias said. "We are used to being misunderstood." She gave a small nod. "Then you will stand with me when they speak." "I will," Elias said. "That is why I came." The chamber doors opened again, wider this time, revealing the full court. Lathari elders, advisors, and commanders turned their attention toward the pair. Murmurs rippled through the room as Saren stepped forward, her presence commanding immediate silence. "Today," she said, her voice carrying without effort, We judged a human by our oldest test, and today that test was incomplete. A sharp intake of breath spread through the court. Not because the human failed, Saren continued, but because the test itself revealed its limits. The murmurs grew louder. Some faces darkened in disapproval. Others showed surprise. The human did not claim what was exposed, she said. He did not deny desire, nor was he ruled by it. He chose restraint. He chose respect. She turned slightly, gesturing toward Elias. Our scholars called this species dangerous. I now say this, a species that can feel deeply and still choose control is not weak, it is disciplined. One elder stepped forward. Princess, this defies tradition. So did the first law, Saren replied. So did the first alliance. She raised her hand, and several Lathari removed parts of their ceremonial armor, not in surrender but in unity. The gesture sent a wave of shock through the court. We will not rule humanity, Saren said, nor will we submit to it. We will stand beside it. All eyes turned to Elias. He felt the weight of the moment, of history bending in small but meaningful ways. He stepped forward and inclined his head. Humanity accepts, he said simply, not as masters, not as subjects, as partners. The court fell silent. Then slowly, one by one, the murmurs changed. Fear did not vanish, but something else took its place. Curiosity, possibility. Later, as the formalities ended and the court dispersed, Saren and Elias stood once more near the edge of the great hall, watching distant stars through the crystal ceiling. You have changed the path of my people, she said. You have allowed it to change, Elias replied. She considered that, then nodded. Perhaps that is the difference. Elias knew challenges would come, alliances would be tested, mistakes would be made, but he also knew that today something rare had happened. A powerful empire had chosen trust over fear. As Elias prepared to return to his ship, Saren spoke one last time. Tell your people this, she said. The Lathari have seen humanity clearly. And what did you see? Elias asked. She looked out at the stars, her reflection layered over them like living light. A species that mastered itself before trying to master the universe. Elias smiled, just slightly, and turned toward the future. The news spread through the Lathari Empire faster than any ship could travel. Messages of light moved across crystal relays, carrying the same truth again and again. Humanity had not broken. Humanity had not bowed. Humanity had stood still and chosen restraint. Not everyone welcomed this truth. On the edge of the empire, in a system filled with red dust and dying stars, a war council gathered. The Keth Dominion had watched the Lathari for generations. They were a species built for pressure. Their bodies were heavy, their minds direct, their culture simple and brutal. To the Keth, strength was proven only through force. They saw the new alliance as weakness. The Lathari hide behind humans now, rumbled the Keth war leader, his armored fingers digging into the stone table. They believe restraint will save them. A low growl of agreement passed through the chamber. Then we will test this restraint, another said. We will strike a border world. If the humans respond with force, they are liars. If they do not, the Lathari fall. The decision was made without hesitation. Far away on Valith, Princess Saren stood before a projection of the threatened system. Her skin darkened with concern, colors shifting sharply. Elias Ward stood beside her, hands clasped, his face calm but focused. They will not wait, Saren said. They never do. No, Elias agreed. This is how they speak. Around them, Lathari commanders debated rapidly. Some argued for immediate retaliation. Others urged caution. The old fear crept back into the room, quiet but sharp. They want us to react without thinking, Elias said. That is their trap, Saren looked at him. And what do humans do when trapped? Elias considered the stars on the display. We make the trap useless. A plan began to form, not of fleets and weapons, but of presence. When the Keth warships arrived at the border world, they found something unexpected. No Lathari battle line. No human fleet preparing to strike. Instead, a single human vessel drifted near the planet, broadcasting an open signal. The Keth hesitated. This was not how prey behaved. The signal carried Elia's voice, steady and clear. "This system is under joint protection. We are here to talk." Laughter echoed through the Keth command decks. "They send words instead of fire," the war leader said. "Advance." The first Keth ships crossed the boundary. Still, no attack came. On the surface of the border world, human and Lathari civilians watched the skies with held breath. Elia stood on the human ship's bridge, feeling the weight of every life below. Fear was there, rising in his chest. He did not deny it. He worked through it. "Open all channels," he said. The Keth flagship responded, filling the screen with the image of their war leader, scarred, massive, confident. "You test our patience, human," the Keth leader said. "Move aside." "We will not," Elias replied. "But we will listen." The Keth leader leaned closer. "Listening is not strength. Neither is destroying what you do not need to," Elias said. "You gain nothing from this world. No resources you cannot find elsewhere. No honor that lasts." The Keth leader paused. That was unexpected. Most species begged or threatened. Humans analyzed. "You protect them because you fear us," the Keth said. "We protect them because they matter," Elias answered. "And because if you strike, you will prove nothing except that force is all you understand." Silence stretched across the channel. Behind Elias, Lathari officers watched tense. This was not how wars were fought. This was standing exposed in a different way. "You offer no challenge," the Keth leader said. "I offer you a choice," Elias said. "Leave and nothing changes. Stay and you will face consequences you cannot predict." The Keth leader laughed again, but the sound was less certain. "What consequences?" he demanded. Elias' eyes hardened slightly. "Isolation. Every route you depend on will close. Every species watching this moment will remember who chose destruction when given restraint." The Keth thrived on fear, but they also relied on trade, on access, on being tolerated. The war leader's gaze shifted. Data scrolled across his displays. Other ships were slowing. Hesitating, Saren watched from Valeth, her skin glowing with a quiet, steady light. For the first time she understood fully. This was human strength, not denial of fear, control of it, use of it. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the Keth leader pulled back. "This is not finished," he growled. "No," Elias agreed. "But today it does not need to be violent." The Keth ships turned away, one by one, their formation breaking as they withdrew. On the border world, people exhaled as one. In the weeks that followed, the story spread. Not just of the alliance, but of the standoff that ended without blood. Other species began to watch humanity differently, not as conquerors, not as fools, but as something unfamiliar, a species that could stop a war by refusing to play the expected role. Saren addressed her people again, this time without ceremony. "We feared humanity because they feel strongly," she said. "Now we see that feeling, guided by choice, can protect more than force ever did." Elias prepared to return to Earth. The alliance was signed. The future uncertain but open. Before he left, Saren met him one last time beneath the crystal sky. "You stood exposed again," she said, "in a different way." "So did you," Elias replied. She inclined her head. "Perhaps our species are not so different." Elias looked at the stars, endless and waiting. Humanity had not shouted its strength. It had shown it quietly, by choosing when not to strike. And across the galaxy, others were beginning to understand. The age of simple dominance was ending. Something harder and far stronger was taking its place. The alliance did not bring peace overnight. It brought attention. Across the galaxy, species that had ignored humanity for years now watched carefully. Trade envoys arrived with polite words and hidden tests. Military scouts passed through human space more often than before. Every move Earth made was measured, recorded, and discussed. Elias Ward felt the weight of it even after returning home. From the viewing deck of Earth's orbital council station, He watched the planet turn slowly below him. Blue oceans, white clouds, familiar and fragile. Humanity had stepped onto a larger stage, and there was no stepping back. "The Lathari ambassador has arrived," a council aide said quietly. Elias nodded and turned away from the window. Princess Saren entered the chamber without guards, just as Elias had once stood before her without protection. Her presence drew attention immediately. Conversation stopped. Screens dimmed. She carried herself with calm authority, her skin glowing in slow, thoughtful patterns. This visit was unprecedented. A ruling Lathari leaving her empire to stand openly among humans sent a message louder than any broadcast. Saren inclined her head to the council. "I come in trust," she said, "and in concern." The council chair gestured for her to continue. "The Keth withdrew," Saren said, "but they did not retreat in spirit. They test borders elsewhere now. Smaller worlds, easier targets." A murmur spread through the chamber. Elias stepped forward. "They are looking for a place where restraint looks like weakness." "Yes," Saren said, "and some will believe that lie." Images appeared above the table: burning settlements, evacuated stations, broken treaties. "They are forcing others to choose," Saren said. "Join them or suffer." The council fell silent. Humanity had seen this pattern before. Bullies always tried to isolate before they crushed. "We will not answer with invasion," the council chair said slowly. "But we cannot ignore this." "No," Elias said. "We answer by standing where they strike." The plan was risky. Human and Lathari ships would move openly into threatened systems, not as fleets of war but as shields. Evacuation corridors, medical stations, communication relays. They would not fire first, but they would not leave. Many warned it was foolish. "They will attack," some said. "And then what?" "Then," Elias answered, "we respond together." The first test came sooner than expected. In a system near the Keth border, a mixed-species colony faced destruction. The Keth arrived in force, confident this time that words would fail. They were met by human ships holding position between the colony and the attackers. Lathari vessels hovered alongside them, crystalline hulls reflecting distant starlight. No weapons fired. The Keth leader hailed them, anger clear in his voice. "You protect those who cannot protect themselves." "Yes," Elias replied, appearing once more on the screen. "That is what allies do." "You dare block us again?" the Keth demanded. "We dare stand," Elias said. The Keth ships advanced. Human shields activated, not weapons but layered defenses designed to absorb impact. Lathari energy fields reinforced them. The first Keth volleys struck, flaring bright against the shields. No counterattack came. Confusion spread through the Keth formation. "Return fire," one commander shouted, but the order hesitated. Every shot they fired only strengthened the proof spreading across the galaxy. They were the only ones choosing violence. Then something unexpected happened. A Keth ship broke formation and pulled away, then another, not from fear of destruction but from fear of exposure. Other species were watching, recording, remembering. The Keth leader roared orders, but the moment had shifted. The attack stalled, then collapsed into a chaotic retreat. No worlds burned that day. The cost came later. Keth trade routes closed. Neutral systems denied them access. Even long-tolerated allies began to distance themselves. Violence had always been the Keth language, but now it brought isolation instead of obedience. On Valith, Saren stood before her people once more. "Strength," she said, "is not proven by how much you can destroy. It is proven by how much you can protect without becoming what you fear." The word spread beyond her empire. On Earth, Elias walked through a public park, no guards, no ceremony. People passed him without recognizing him, laughing, arguing, living ordinary lives. This was what all of it was for. His communicator chimed softly. "Elias," Saren's voice said, "the Keth have requested dialogue." He stopped walking. "That is new," he said. "They wish to understand the rules of this new strength," she said. Elias looked up at the sky, pale blue and peaceful. Then we should explain them carefully. The meeting took place on neutral ground. No armies, no threats, just words. The Keth delegation arrived tense, restrained by necessity rather than choice. Elias and Saren stood together before them. "You cost us power," the Keth leader said bluntly. "We showed you its limits," Elias replied. "You forced us to stop," the Keth growled. "No," Saren said calmly. "You chose to stop. That choice still belongs to you." Silence followed. "What does humanity want?" the Keth asked. Elias answered without hesitation. "A galaxy where strength is measured by restraint and survival is shared." The Keth leader studied him, truly studied him, perhaps for the first time. "This path is difficult," the Keth said. "Yes," Elias agreed, "but it lasts." The talks ended without full agreement, but something had changed. Violence was no longer the only option on the table. Years later, historians would argue about when the galaxy truly shifted. Some would point to the First Alliance, others to the standoff at the border world. But those who had been there knew the truth. The change began when a species learned to stand exposed, not to dominate but to choose. Humanity did not conquer the stars. It taught them how not to burn.